What's going on, money lovers? Welcome back. So Mark Zuckerberg came out and announced that the Facebook company will henceforth be known as the Metaverse company, or the Meta company. They're officially going to be changing the name to Meta. Facebook itself, the website Facebook, will remain Facebook, but it'll be like a parent company similar to Google and Alphabet. So Facebook is saying they're really going to rebrand as this Meta company and go all in on the Metaverse. So today I'm going to give you my thoughts and why I just bought some more shares of Facebook, or the Meta company. We're going to briefly check out Facebook's financials from their last earnings report, and then I'm going to go into this whole idea of the Metaverse and where it's all going. So I started researching a company called Unity Software also, and I'm going to be researching a bunch of Metaverse type companies. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm taking a deep dive into it. Don't miss out. Drop a like, subscribe so you don't miss out. But first, I want to go to a quote from Mark Zuckerberg that he had written in a post back in 2020. So before you brush off this whole metaverse idea as something silly, Mark Zuckerberg had said, "Augmented and virtual reality are about delivering a sense of presence. The feeling that you're right there with another person or in another place. Instead of having devices that take us away from the people around us, the next platform will help us be more present with each other and will help the technology get out of the way. Even though some of the early devices seem clunky, I think these will be the most human and social technology platforms anyone has built. The metaverse will almost be like the next level, the internet 2.0. Right now, to access the internet and all these things, we have to go through a device, phones, computers, and they're not very efficient. It takes forever to type stuff and really communicate with people. But even more interestingly, the second paragraph here, the ability to be present anywhere will also help us address some of the biggest social issues of our day, like ballooning housing costs and inequality of opportunity by geography. Today, many people feel like they have to move to cities because that's where the jobs are. But there isn't enough housing in many cities, so housing costs are skyrocketing while quality of living is decreasing." I can attest to that, having lived in New York City. Imagine if you could live anywhere you chose and access any job anywhere else. If we deliver on what we're building, this should be much closer to reality by 2030. I think there's some key points here. It's so true. New York City is the perfect example. You got to go there because that's where all the jobs are, and the quality of living is terrible. You're paying $3,000 a month in rent to live in a closet. I got out of there real quick, but this just makes a lot of sense. And we kind of saw this start with remote work, but obviously remote work is limited in many ways. You have Zoom fatigue. You don't want to stare at a computer screen all day. So again, this metaverse could be a better extension to that, improve our quality of life, enable what has never been possible before. You could work from anywhere, and this could have just so many benefits. It'll help people with opportunities, with quality of life, and getting the jobs that they want to have without having to uproot their entire life to move where those jobs are located. So these are a few of the benefits of the metaverse that I think are less talked about, and I think we should seriously pay attention to. Now let's go to Facebook's rebranding announcement here. So Facebook changing its name to Meta as it focuses on the metaverse, series of interconnected, persistent virtual worlds that let people interact with digital objects and avatars. And by the way, these words may seem alien to you, but I think it's pretty awesome that we are really living through a sci-fi movie right now. Like, no one could have seen this stuff coming, and yet it makes so much sense. So Facebook app will still retain its name. Zuckerberg stated, "We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present like we're right there with people no matter how far apart we are." This makes a lot of sense, with all this globalization, just the interconnectedness of everyone's lives, being present in the moment, not having to go on the phone to communicate with people who you aren't with. This makes a lot of sense, and it adds a lot of conveniency, not having to travel. So while the metaverse is still in its infancy, companies like Facebook hope it will be the new version of the internet. It can be accessed via virtual reality and augmented reality headsets. So Facebook has made strides into this with their Oculus project, and they're releasing a new one called Cambria they're going to mention here. The key is that it serves as a kind of virtual standard for the real world. Over time, I hope that we are seen as a metaverse company, Zuckerberg said. So they're really going all in on this metaverse thing, and I think it's exciting because where Facebook is today, had they just continued down that route, I feel like they're limited. There's only so much they could grow. They probably were at the peak because they have like 3 billion active users. They don't have a lot more room for growth there, I feel like. So they would kind of stagnate, which isn't the worst thing when there's a company bringing in $32 billion a year. But this metaverse thing has unlocked a massive new growth potential for this company, I believe. So they also debuted their prototype VR headset codenamed Cambria, which will be able to reflect things like your facial reactions in virtual worlds. This stuff is nuts. We're living in a sci-fi film. They showed off their first pair of fully augmented reality glasses, and Facebook has not been the only company investing heavily in the metaverse, and some of these other companies are the ones that I'm going to be speaking about in my Metaverse series. I'm taking a deep dive into a lot of these companies, examining what exactly they plan to do with the metaverse. Like I said, I started with Unity Software, which I think is a great company, so be on the lookout for a video on that. But then some other ones, Microsoft is investing in the metaverse to improve remote meetings. Amazon and Disney have made it clear they're interested in as well. Disney has a lot to gain here. I mean, just imagine with all that they own between the Marvel Cinematic Universe, between Star Wars, being able to go into the metaverse and be a Jedi or do, all these crazy things, be a superhero. I mean, they are going to make a killing. Disney, another great stock, as well as Roblox, an online gaming firm, has already launched its own kind of metaverse that allows gamers to create and host their own game worlds. And then it goes on to talk about, Facebook's controversies and how they're trying to get away from it and rebrand. And yet we look at all these Facebook controversies that this company has always dealt with. 2018 was Cambridge Analytica. It went all the way down to $124, but it always comes back up. After every big dip, there's a huge, massive run up to follow, as you can see here. So I think there's really a lot to be excited for here, a lot of potential. This is not something that's going to happen overnight with the metaverse. It's a long-term play here. But in the meantime, we have a very solid company here that just posted a great earnings report. And part of what I was about to say Tesla's always on my mind. They're almost about to eclipse $1,100. Absolutely wild. But anyway, Facebook also plans, they announced that they're going to hire 10,000 engineers in Europe to work on this metaverse project. So now let's take a quick look at their earnings report here, and then I'll wrap it up. So monthly active users, as I said, they have almost 3 billion people using this every month. 3 billion worldwide. And obviously at this point it's getting a lot harder to grow. As you can see, kind of slowing down here quarter over quarter, at least from 2.89 billion to 2.91. So as I said, there's limited growth in this area for the company, but the metaverse unlocks an exponential growth opportunity. Facebook brought in almost $30 billion of revenue in the past quarter. And then if you look at their free cash flow statement over here, brought in $9.5 billion of free cash flow in Q3 alone. If we project for the entire year here, they're looking at bringing in, if we average these numbers out, we're talking $32 billion in free cash flow. Now, most companies, a lot of old companies, traditionally, this is the point. Facebook is, cresting the hill. They would just start doing share buybacks, start paying a dividend, and, stagnate here. No, what are they going to do instead? They're going full in on the metaverse, and I think this is a great move. It keeps the story exciting, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out. But in the meantime, you have a very stable company. So it's like, would you rather take that $9 billion in free cash flow and use it in the form of a dividend, or would you rather go for something big? I like this idea. I like that they want to be the infrastructure for the metaverse. And another great point that they made is that Facebook currently is very reliant on these other companies like Apple, like Google. They have to use their devices. How do people get on Facebook? Through their iPhones and their Google phones. How do they use the Facebook app? They have to download it off the Apple Store, the Google Store. If Facebook can now build out their own infrastructure via the metaverse, they no longer have to rely on these other companies, which will enable them to become an even bigger company that's fully independent. So I think that this is a great move. I'm very excited to see how this all plays out. And if you want to hear more about the metaverse, or I plan to post some videos, I'm currently researching Unity stock. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, drop me a comment. This is Vinny from the Investment Club, and I'll see you next time.